Hey, y'all, how are you doing? I'm great. Thank you so much for asking. It's me, Kim, and I'm back for another newsletter exclusive podcast. If you're listening to this podcast anywhere other than my newsletter, head on over to KimberlyNicoleFoster.co. That's KimberlyNicoleFoster.co, where I show you around, where you can relax, unwind, luxuriate in the thoughtful cultural criticism, because yes, it is that serious to me. I also want to encourage you to subscribe to the Kimberly Has Thoughts YouTube channel. That is where audio and video of all of the podcasts that I put up over on the newsletter will reside on YouTube. I created that channel because sometimes in the newsletter podcast, I'm really talking about something and there's real structure and it's easy to follow like a traditional video. And sometimes it's just me talking shit. Sometimes I'm not talking about nothing. But I still want to be able to put it up because I know some girlies are not Substack girlies. And YouTube is my home base ultimately. That's where the most people have connected with me. And I really appreciate y'all's support. So if you don't want to get Substack, if you don't want to get emails, that's fine. Just go ahead and subscribe to the other channel. You know, there's like a wave of the YouTube girls making new channels. I don't know. I just feel like we felt constrained and restrained and we need to break out. That's me. You know, sometimes you just gotta switch it up a little bit. Additionally, I am fairly certain that Kimberly Has Thoughts is now up on Spotify as a podcast. I'm fairly certain, like 80% sure. But y'all let me know if I'm lying. And my final caveat before we really dive into it is today, the stands are going to love me. I acknowledge that when I go up for something, I go up, I go all in, and it is easy for a stan to mistake me for a stan. But no, I need y'all to know I am anti-stan and I'm anti-stan, okay? Both sides of stan culture I literally hate. I actually think that y'all are ruining art. Y'all have completely devolved and corroded and eroded thoughtful, nuanced conversations about pop culture. I am not one of you. And you'll know for sure that I'm not one of you the next time I thoughtfully and forcefully articulate my displeasure with something that Taylor has done. The exact same thing goes for Beyonce. One day they call me a Beyonce stan. The next thing they call me a hater. The only person I have pure, unadulterated standum for is Janet Demita Joe Jackson. I repeat, if you are not JD, I do not stand you. And even with Janet, I can point out some missteps. Okay, let's get into it. Dearly beloved, I'm here today to address a deep cultural sickness. It is the only TDS I personally care about. It is Taylor derangement syndrome. What do I call Taylor derangement syndrome? I'd say that it is a knee-jerk refusal to acknowledge the excellence of Taylor Swift, the songwriting excellence, the strategic excellence, the fact that she is a marketer par excellence. For years, I have been fighting this fight. I am tired of windmilling in comments, trying to go back and forth with people who are dead set on dismissing Taylor, discrediting her, ignoring the fact that she has done things that literally nobody else in the history of recorded music has done. I understand if you feel like she's overrated. I understand if you feel like she's only huge because she's white and blonde, though that's not true. I understand if you take issue with how carefully she constructs her narrative, how sometimes manipulative she can be with her relationship to the public. I get it. And nobody is required to like any pop star. I mean, you know, there's people I don't like and I will never like. For example, this is our first tangent. For example, I don't see it for Tate McRae. Right now, at this very moment, I don't see it for Tate McRae at all. However, that is not what this video is about. Look, we all have our opinions. We all have our taste. But even if something is not your taste, I do think that in order to be a savvy, thoughtful consumer of pop culture in the poptimism era, we can at least point out the mechanical victories. There are a lot of mechanical victories when it comes to Taylor Swift. There are artistic victories, but I can't make y'all see the brilliance of a song like Dear John. Like, I can't force y'all to do that. Like, I can't make y'all see the brilliance of the Fearless album, from Fearless to Hey Stephen to Love. I can't make y'all see that, okay? So I'm just gonna go through it step by step. Now, I like a lot of Taylor music. I am not a Taylor stan because there's a lot of stuff in there that I don't like. I think the last few eras have been great for me. Besides the Eras tour, there's just not a lot of excellence in there for me. But before Evermore, I'm going to say, I mean, it's remarkable. And I think I have a unique insight into this. And I was really thinking about this because I don't want to just reflexively write people off when they dismiss Taylor. I was thinking about this. My second job, technically, it was my second job. It was at Texas Roadhouse. One of my high school friends got me in there. And Texas Roadhouse had a jukebox and they played country music all the time. And I was the host, so the host generally got to control what was played on the jukebox. And so I would always go in there and play the country pop girls. I would play, and this was, let me tell my age, okay? 2005, 2006, before Taylor's debut came out, okay? And I would go during all of my shifts and I would go straight to the jukebox because you know what I wanted to hear? The country pop girls, Faith Hill, Shania Twain, Dixie Chicks. And they hated me for that because at the time, the dominant people, Toby Keith, Keith Urban, Kenny Chesney, Brad Paisley, Tim McGraw, Rascal Flatts, Big and Rich. I mean, it was men, okay? And so whenever I would get all of this pushback because I just want to listen to my girls, I just want to listen to you bringing out the Elvis in me. By the way, if you know bringing out the Elvis, you're a real country pop girl. You get me, okay? Whenever I would get that crazy pushback in high school, I said, oh my God, the girls are oppressed. I recognized what a big shift it was when Taylor came into the scene 2006, 2007, 2008 and cleared everyone. It was huge. It was a revolution. I'm not, you can say that I am being hyperbolic. It was a revolution. What inspired me to get into this? I don't know. I'm just clicking around, clicking links, surfing the web. And I came across a book from an editor of the Harvard Business Review. It's called There's Nothing Like This. It's about the strategic genius in quotation marks, of Taylor Swift. I'm fascinated by pop music as a listener, right? As a consumer, as a pop girl, but I'm fascinated by the business of pop music as a cultural artifact. And so I decided to start reading it. I have gotten through her rise and signing the Big Machine deal and releasing the debut album and the Fearless era. There's enough there in the early days to crystallize some thoughts for me. And I will say, would I 100% recommend the book at this moment? I'm not sure. It's not groundbreaking, but it is nice to see everything laid out in such an orderly manner. I want to go by this bit by bit because sometimes people can acknowledge how strategic Taylor is, but they don't like to acknowledge how good she is. I want to be very clear. She is both good and remarkably strategic. So y'all know I have all of these notes for videos that I've never made, essays that I've never written. I spent quite a bit of time, maybe a year or two, digging into the roots of country music and country music culture. Probably, why did I do that? Probably to talk about Beyonce and Cowboy Carter. Maybe I'll come back to it later. But what is clear when you dig into the roots of genre and the country music genre in particular is that it has sustained itself by being a quote closed culture. Country music is very insular. They do a great job of gatekeeping, particularly in the pre-streaming days, which Taylor emerged in the pre-streaming days, remember. It was about conservative, white, Southern identity, values, culture, and masculinity. Country music is not just a genre, it is a sociocultural worldview. And in order for women, from the earliest days of country music radio, we're talking the early 20th century, in order for women to break through, to get any kind of strangleholds, they kind of had to kowtow to the conservatism of it, the whiteness of it, the southernness of it, and the maleness of it. And if you tried to defy that in any meaningful way, if you tried to go against the jingoism, look at the Dixie Chicks, you were going to be punished. You were going to get disciplined. The boundaries were incredibly rigid. Women in country music have consistently been sidelined. We might know a few prominent names like a Dolly Parton. I mean, that's the go-to for everybody. A Loretta Lynn, a Patsy Cline, a Reba. Everybody loves a Reba. A single mom who works 2 jobs, who loves her kids and never stops, right? But that's honestly more a product of a modern era, a feminist era. Well, I guess, the feminism part of it, we can go back and forth about that. But an era that values the artistic contributions of women. And Shania Twain and Faith Hill, when they made their pop country transition, when they reached the pinnacle of that, they got a lot of blowback. When you think about the history of sexism in country music, there's a really famous quote from 2015 from Keith Hill, who was a country music radio programmer. And it's called, if you look on Wikipedia, Saladgate or Tomatogate. When he was explaining the best way for country radio to program their stations, meaning choose which artists go on the radio, which artists they invest in with play and bringing in for the festivals and stuff, he said that male artists were always going to be the lettuce of the country music salad, and that the female artists were the tomatoes, the garnish, the additions that you can add, but you can take it or leave it. And that was it was a scandal. This was 2015, y'all. That is the landscape that little Taylor Swift was trying to bust into as a teenage girl from Pennsylvania with the guitar who was determined to write her own songs. That's a big part of this. The fact that she was not willing to go into the Nashville studio system and let them make her over. She was explicitly told that there was no market for teenage girls in country music because so much of the fan base was women, but there is an idea that girls and women want to listen to men. Every once in a while, you'll get a Leanne Rimes, but that's not the person who can be the face of country music. Then comes Taylor Swift. And there were a couple of really remarkable statistics in this book that I had never seen before. I'm sure that the stans have just touted them everywhere because we live in a statistic-obsessed time. Taylor's debut album bubbled under for a long time. She really had to work it. But eventually it became the longest charting album of the 2000s on the Billboard 200. What? When I read that in the book, I actually had to go to Perplexity and look it up just to confirm. An album released in 2006? That's wild. Another thing that stood out to me from the book, she was also the first solo female artist in country music history to write or co-write every track on a platinum selling debut. A little girl, You guys, that stuff is impressive to me. She blew the system open. And this is a part of the Taylor Swift story that I feel like gets under discussed. The fact that she is a child prodigy. The story of her going to the different labels in country music. This little girl with a guitar, and they try to tell her, oh no, you should do this, or you should let this person write your songs. Or there's a story of her sitting in a writing session with a seasoned writer, and her little girl Taylor telling the writer, oh no, that's trite. No, I don't think that really represents what teenage girls are feeling. The kind of confidence that she had, the fact that she refused, and this is with the help of her parents, that they refused to allow her to sign to a mainstream label because she was insistent on writing and performing her own song. And they tried to get her to transition into the songwriter lane. And she was like, no, I'm not a songwriter only. I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm going to do this. To have that confidence and clarity of vision as a teenager is prodigy shit. She, with the help of her parents, and this is really where having good, privileged parents comes in. They did not just have to sign to get a check, to get some stability. And that is why, you guys, this is another outline that I never finished. That is why so many of our favorite pop girls come from privilege. That's why, because you have to be able to hold out. You have to be able to wait for the right deal, or to be able to bounce back when you get a bad deal. When people were surprised that Ariana Grande comes from a little bit of something, something, I'm not. The pop girls have money. Beyonce has money. I think I looked up Charlie XCX. A little bit of something, something. Not rich, rich, but upper middle class. Taylor is one of the rare examples where I think it is okay for parents to usher their children into the entertainment industry, only if they are a legit genius. You can only do a professional thing as a child if you are a Serena Williams, if you are a Beyonce, if you are a Taylor Swift, if you are a Tiger Woods. That is the only time, in my mind, where it's appropriate. Those are people who have incredible ambition, incredible drive, remarkable vision, and top 0.001% talent. If it's not that, leave your kids at home. If it's not that, to my mind, it's just exploitation. Regarding that drive, another story from the book that stood out to me was she releases the self-titled debut, and it takes a while. She really works it, but then it starts to take off. And of course, there's a very famous song, the first single, Tim McGraw. And Tim McGraw's a big star at this time. And he's doing interviews. And one day, Taylor calls into a studio where Tim McGraw is giving an interview, and she's bantering back and forth with him. And she says, hey, are you looking for an opening act? There's this girl called Taylor Swift, and maybe you want to look at her, and, you know, she would be perfect for the job. And just like the balls of that. This is a little girl. This is a teenager. And you know what else? When I was watching Eras Tour, there is a moment in the show where she transitions into the acoustic set. I literally wrote this down in my notes. Our song is so good. Our song, a little kid wrote that. And never forget, this lady is a multi-instrumentalist. It's just rare. All of these things packaged into one person, coming out at the exact right time. Even her being able to master the tools of marketing, her intuitive feel for connecting with fans on social media, and having that be the centerpiece of what propels her into superstardom, that is some next level shit. I remember Lana Del Rey, was it last year, the year before? She said something about no one wants it as badly as Taylor wants it. And I'm inclined to agree. The other crazy thing to me is how she has this remarkable success with the debut album. remember, a teenager. You know, once you get into your late 30s, as I am, you really start to appreciate how young 14, 15, 16, 17 is. So she has had this remarkable success arc. She's on tour. And while she's on tour promoting the debut, she's writing Fearless. And then Fearless comes out in 2008. And that's a banger. That's better than the debut. All of this pressure. She didn't buckle. Now I have to talk about the remarkable run. Look, I, as a Janet Demita Jo Jackson stan, do think that Janet Demita Jo Jackson has the best 4-album run in pop music history. But the Fearless, Speak Now, Red 1989 album run is top 5. Is top 5. And then I found out from the book that Love Story from the Fearless album was the first country song to reach #1 on the Billboard Pop Songs chart. The first one ever. And then what else do I have written down? The Fearless album spent 11 weeks at #1 on the Billboard 200, the mainstream album chart. It spent 35 weeks at #1 on the country albums chart. And that is when she became a superstar. Now, this is important, okay? This timeline is very critical for the Swift deniers, for the TDS sufferers, because please note that when she is on this crazy run, she is beating white people. When she is firmly in country music and she is taking over the genre, just unstoppable, she's beating white. And then if we want to talk about it's because she's blonde and white. Everybody in country music is blonde and white. That's why Shania is so different. That's why Reba is so remarkable. That's why Gretchen Wilson, when she was out, she was such an aberration. All the blonde white girlies are trying to make it in country. You know who won? Taylor. So a racial analysis is always appropriate. But when we're talking about how this lady cleared the white men, the white women, the grown ones, the young ones, the 30-somethings, it's unmistakable. Now, there definitely is some racial stuff when she starts having to go head to head with people of other non-country, non-pop genres. But within the country music genre, we already covered the fact that it is insular, it is gatekept, it is patriarchal. The lady dominated. And really, I'm calling her the lady. This is a little girl. She can't even drink at this time. And my final thought regarding the age thing is Kevin Evers in the book, he brings up a comparison between Taylor Swift and Lewis Capaldi. I am an American pop girl, so I really don't have a lot of familiarity with Lewis Capaldi. And, I also don't really pay attention to pop men and pop boys unless it's Harry Styles or Usher. Is Usher a pop boy? He's a pop and beat boy, okay? Lewis Capaldi is an example of a young person who got a lot of fame very early. And unfortunately, the toll that it took on him psychologically and physically is like, was it even worth it? Most people are simply not prepared to handle the pressure of very, very young superstardom. Okay, so now I want to talk about the brilliance of the way that she transitioned into mainstream pop music at such an early age. So we know that the Fearless moment when she's 19, 20 is the real transition moment where she even wins her first Album of the Year Grammy for Fearless in 2010. I think very well deserved. That was the year she won Country Album and Album of the Year. Guess who did that 15 years later? Beyonce, Giselle, Knowles Carter. Now, isn't that something? Isn't that something? Shout out to Beyonce, Giselle, Knowles Carter. I believe that win was well deserved. I also understand the 1989 Album of the Year win. I can even justify a folklore win. But that fourth win for Midnights Absolutely not. Now, this is where I am off the stand train. Absolutely not. But that's another conversation for another day. The way that Taylor was able to effectively transition from pure country existing almost totally within the country music landscape with an effective pop music crossover, but that's kind of under her country music umbrella, to being pure pop, pop first, pop forward, is a testament to her understanding of marketing. She understood herself so well. She knew how to tell the story to keep people on board. And it's also highlighted in the book her really effective use of social media tools and engagement with fans. There is a reference to this Red live stream. Red was the real pop music coming out of the closet moment. And she does this live stream, and it's on mainstream TV, broadcast TV, but it's also on the internet. You can still find her Red album launch live stream on YouTube. And she is sitting like a school teacher in like a rocking chair, and all of her fans are on the floor around her. And the first thing that she says to the camera, "I'm here with my friends." You're what? Yes, Taylor is a parasocial superstar. She has effectively harnessed the intimacy, the connection that her fans feel toward her, using these platforms, using the new technologies of the internet to tell people, "I'm not separate from you. You and I are here in this together." When you pair that marketing genius, the narrative genius, mastery of these new technologies, these new platforms, to make people who don't know you, never met you, feel like they're getting an extra added glimpse and bonus. In addition to the intimacy that she encapsulates in the songwriting, I know, I'm not debating people about the greatness of the songwriting. It's good. Sorry. If you can't recognize that the sharp specificity, the emotional articulation of Swift's songwriting is something most people aim for, they do not get it, then I don't. A lot of people have tried to do it. If it were so basic, they would be able to do it. They can't do it. She can't. The playfulness that she has, or used to have, because now she's older, there's a little bit more of a barrier, a boundary, but it was the going back and forth with fans on MySpace, Tumblr, Twitter, how she embeds Easter eggs into the lyrics, into the music videos. She gives little clues on stage for the fans to try to uncover and decode. They feel like there is an insider discourse that Taylor has invited them in on. And that is also why those Swifties will die for her. There is now an expectation that artists who want to be really, really big, that they take on the influencer auteur persona. That really was not the norm. It just wasn't like a standard practice, not to Taylor's degree. I also think that Rihanna is so good at this. And in fact, they're the same age. Rihanna born in 88, Taylor born in 89. Yeah. There's something to that they both come to the forefront. They get their shots at the perfect time. It fits their approach to music. It fits their personality. And that is why the girls, now I'm not a Taylor stan, I'm not deeply invested, but I am deeply invested in Rihanna. I always admit that. That's my girl. That's my problematic girl. I'm also a huge SZA fan. To me, SZA, the voice of a generation of millennial Black women. But there's that connection, that marketing persona connection between Taylor and Rihanna. And there is a songwriting, intimacy, confessional vulnerability connection between Taylor and SZA. And Taylor and SZA are the same age. There's just, it's a millennial thing. I'm sorry. You don't understand. The girls that get it, get it. Okay, and the last thing that I want to talk about with regard to self-presentation and narrative building before we jump into the race stuff is how Taylor, in her work, in her presentation, in her tackiness, centers the emotional and political significance of girlhood. This is a big thing. And really, if we're talking about what this entire empire hinges on, the entire empire, the record-breaking success of the Eras Tour, the fact that she's been able to become a billionaire from music alone hinges on the reclamation of girlhood. Taylor's taking girlhood seriously, centering it as something that is remarkable and sacred. There is no apology in it. There is no irony in it. And it feels like a victory, especially if you know all of the background around country music. If you are a pop girl, you know how much misogyny runs throughout pop music and the pop culture industry. There is a joyfulness in it. And let me just say, I always say Taylor Swift is tasteless. The songs are good, love to listen to them, well crafted, catchy, but it's the aesthetic. It's the rainbows. It's very basic aesthetically. There is not a lot of, to my mind, sophistication in that. The glitter, I enjoyed watching the Eras Tour, but I'll be honest, a lot of it did give me children's theater vibes. It definitely gave youth summer program vibes at times, but I do believe that that is all intentional, and that is what draws people to her. This is a part of the intimacy thing. People are drawn to Taylor because they feel like they could be her, like she could pluck them out of the crowd, bring them on stage, and they could do the choreography right along with her. And this is a big thing for a female artist because there's this trope. I actually just saw this on Instagram Reels where people put up these pictures of, this is what I was wearing when I swore Michael Jackson was going to see me in the crowd and take me on stage. This is what I was wearing when I swore Jodeci was going to see me in the crowd and take me on stage. This is what I was wearing when Bruce Springsteen was going to, okay? There's that investment that the girls have. It's via a lust, a romantic feeling that has propelled so many male stars to superstardom. Or if we're talking about country music, we can talk about Garth Brooks, the other stadium seller. With Taylor's relationship to little girls and adult women, it's a different thing of, I'm going to wear this glitter, this silver, this sequence so Taylor will see me and bring me on stage and I can do the Shake It Off choreography that I've been practicing for all these years with her on stage, and we can have fun together and laugh together. There is something really deep about the idea that you can just have fun and let loose and it doesn't have to be perfect. Ooh, actually, there is a quote from the book that just stuck out for me. Wait, let me find it. I found it. Kevin Evers wrote, Taylor thrived because she shrugged off the, quote, soulless sheen of perfectionism. That is it. Girls just want to have fun. Girls just want to dance like nobody's watching in the mirror. Girls just want to shimmer and sparkle and wear cute clothes and wear jewelry and wear sequins and wear diamonds and wear dresses and not care if they are exactly hitting the mark and not care if the choreography is exactly perfect. She taps into that. Now, I am a negress, and I understand that the history of being a negress in the entertainment industry, or anywhere else for that matter, is you gotta hit the marks. You gotta be clean. You gotta get it right. the privilege I think a lot of people are reacting to very negatively when they encounter Taylor Swift is we don't get to do that. Black artists, by and large, don't just get to say the haters are gonna hate and shake it off. That's right. Like the reason why Taylor and Beyonce cannot be compared is because they do completely different things. They offer completely different things to their audiences. Beyonce represents the precision, the perfection, the shine, the shimmer, the sparkle. She is so separated from her audience because she can do things most of us can never imagine. We can't even dream of. But that's a different thing. It serves a different purpose. And just because I can see that purpose and the value of that as a negress doesn't mean that I cannot also see and respect what's happening on the Eras Tour. The way that Taylor has created a site for the collective release and emotional connection of girls from young. I know Kevin did an interview and he said he brought his 6-year-old daughter to the Eras Tour and she was moved. And then you see the 40-something girls and older just singing their hearts out, remembering what it was like to be 22. And by the way, I'm in that number. When she got to the red era and 22 came out, oh my God. When you were 20, imagine being 22 when 22 came out. Imagine. What a time to be alive. Yes. And now we're in this age just politically, if we want to make the political connection. Girlhood, you come from a certain kind of privilege, is a lot easier than womanhood. So of course you want to go back to girlhood. Yeah, be messy, be dramatic, be expressive, be creative. Make your little friendship bracelet. What I actually see and hear when I see so many Black women in particular, because those are the comments that I care about, when they respond negatively to Taylor, I see a resentment of the kind of space that Taylor gets to make and create to just wild out. Nobody holds it against her that it's not perfect. What they respect about her is the creative effort, the output, the drive, the determination, the ambition, the fact that she's willing to give it all. For a lot of Black women, girlhood is not the site of delight in play that it is for white girls and white women. And I really do think that that is the divide. I'm not saying that is the case for all Black women and all Black girls. I get it. Like, I get the good parts of Taylor because I feel the nostalgia. I feel the lightness. I react to the idea that we can bring lots of different generations together onto this cultural playground and we can have an exchange. Like, that means a lot for me. And I actually wish that there were more spaces for girls and women to be able to do that and connect in that way. I actually think a big hole, a gaping hole in Black culture is that doesn't really exist. Like, Black culture is so mature. It is stuff that, I can't put on Renaissance and let my nieces listen to it. I can't. Well, maybe I could put on Anti, but even then, I don't want to listen to people talking about smoking weed. I don't want to listen to Needed Me with my nieces, but it still goes right the fuck off. But on the other hand, I think about how my love and affection for Janet Demita Jo Jackson was really cemented when I saw her live during the All For You tour in 2001 in Las Vegas with my mom. Now, my mom did, as a respectable negress, try to cover my eyes when one of Janet's dancers simulates oral sex on her live on stage. She did. It left an imprint. But maybe I was too young at, how old was I, 12, to see simulated oral sex on stage in 2001. I mean, I'm fine. I feel like I turned out fine. But I would not ever dream of sitting through that with my 12-year-old nieces. No, they can't even play outside when somebody's not home, you know? To wrap this all up, I wish that there were way more opportunities for non-white women to be able to explore whimsy. And I think we might be turning in a way that makes that more possible, but we're not quite there yet, okay? I recognize and respect why so many non-white people don't want to invest in the Taylor Project, but there is great value in that. And that's why I don't hold Taylor's girlishness against her, because girlishness has historically been so derided, so marginalized, so disrespected that, okay, it's annoying to you. It is tacky with the sparkles and the glitter and the sequins. It is. But it's doing something. When you see Taylor in an interview, like the interview that she gave when she was awarded Time Magazine's Person of the Year, and she talks about how important it is that she has been able to prove that feminine art can be profitable, you roll your eyes because it's like, girl, the girl boss feminism era is over. The same reason why we react negatively to seeing those ladies who are going to go up in Jeff Bezos's space machine. We're like, girl, why are you on the cover of Elle for hooking up with the rich person's girlfriend or wife or fiance? That is not a feat. We're done with that. But if we properly contextualize it, it's a good thing. We can talk about the unintended consequences of making femininity a spectacle that can be sold and consumed and marketed in the way that Taylor does it. We can talk about the downsides of relatability as spectacle. The shucks, I'm so awkward and earnest. It disarms people, but it can, after 15, 20 years, it can become a little grating. I think we were right at that point after Tortured Poets Department, or before, honestly, where people were like, we're done here. Give us a break. We don't want to see it. We don't want to see the knock knees. We don't want to see the who me. For that period before she reached peak saturation, it really was working. I think about, if you watch the beginning of the Eras tour, there's the opening, and then when she finally speaks to the audience, she goes, oh, hi. Didn't even see you there. You know, stuff like that, like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, where it's like, yeah, girl, we're here. The way that she constructed the Eras tour to be summer camp for girls and women. You know, the boys were there, the men were there, the babies were there, but her ability to build a community that seems, just as an outsider, because I would never attend the Eras tour, that's way too many people, a community that seems to be rooted in an openness. The idea of the friendship bracelet ritual. Trading friendship bracelets, trading charms. You don't know this person. Y'all can relate. You're instantly connected via your love, affection for this central figure. To me, that's positive. And one of the inspirations for talking about Taylor derangement syndrome and connecting it inevitably to Trump derangement syndrome is because Trump has figured out how to build those connections, but in a corrosive way. He exploits the affinity that the people who come to him have and channel it into resentment, rage, hate, anger, grievance. Instead of the friendship bracelet, the Trumpers, the MAGA, they're connected by the MAGA hat. Trump and Taylor are the inverse of each other. At any rate, you don't have to love Taylor Swift. You don't. You don't even have to like her. But if we are trying to have a thoughtful, robust conversation about why she resonates so deeply in the culture, not just in the United States, but across the world. This lady is doing sold out concerts in places Americans haven't been to in a decade, 15 years, 20 years. It's insane. We gotta talk about that honestly, talk about the strategy, talk about the storytelling, talk about her ability to turn misogyny on its head, her ability to turn critique, especially the sexist kind, into power. That's not hype. She has built up a remarkable infrastructure just through the force of her own will. For me, what is really remarkable about the Eras Tour is how it feels like the apotheosis of girl boss feminism. I mean, if we really want to get into some depressing shit, I talked about the connection between Taylor derangement syndrome and Trump derangement syndrome. It makes perfect sense to me that the conclusion of the Eras Tour, the highest grossing worldwide tour of all time, this site of play, of joy, of fun, of carefree, girlish femininity, directly precedes the start of the second Trump era. There is a resentment, a jealousy that men have because they don't have similar spaces to delight in the carefreeness, the lightness of masculinity. Traditional normative masculinity gets expressed through violence enacted on other people. It gets expressed through misogyny. It gets expressed through collective disgust of the racial other. There is no way to be MAGA without indulging in that kind of toxicity. You don't have to get it. But at the very least, you guys, here's something I feel like we can all connect on. Can you at least take a little bit of heart in the fact that the scale, the scope, the effectiveness of Taylor's blonde ambition drives the MAGAs wild? They fucking hate it. There's a reason why those people have turned the lady who was supposed to be America's sweetheart into the childless cat lady supervillain. Because Swift in mainstream America represents the pantsuit, feminist, I don't need a man, work before everything else takeover. And we can acknowledge that while also pointing out the huge gaps in the feminist analysis and praxis of Taylor and all of her fans. It certainly leaves something to be desired, but even imperfect things can be useful, can be significant and impactful. Ooh, that was a lot, girl. That is all I have to say about that. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, sign up for the new channel. I will see y'all next time. Bye.